But on that note, should we go into?
Yeah,
Right, here we
let's
go.
actually start the episode after already waffling on for half an hour.
Do you know what? Right, every time we do these, I'm always like, oh, this is not gonna, we're not gonna be taking that long.
Yeah, like, oh, this is not going to be a long one. And then we like waffle on about other shit for
Yeah.
so long.
Well, I say that's your fault for being too interesting, but there we go.
That is rich coming from you.
No, no, no. I'm aware of all the boring, nerdy shit I'm into. Right, mate. Ekins, do you have any like key memories of Ekins?
Yeah. So key memories of Ekans, you've got the iconic fight against Caterpie, like Ash's first fight against Team Rocket. Like that's where we meet Ekans. I think the story of how Jessie gets Ekans is very cute. Because like Ekans was a gift that was very important to her. I think there's a whole emotional narrative with Ekans. There's like in most episodes, it's just like Jessie's stooge with whatever Team Rocket are up to. But then there's the episode where on like the island of the giant mechanical Pokemon where Ash and Team's Pokemon get separated from their people and Team Rocket's Pokemon get separated as well. And like Ekans and Coughing and Bulbasaur, Squirtle and Charmander have to like team up and Meowth and Pikachu have to like team up together to get back to their people. And there's that whole conversation where like Squirtle's like, "Why are you so nice to us? You're baddies.
Mm.
Like aren't you supposed to be like attacking us?" And Ekans is like, "Hey, I'm not a bad guy, but I'm loyal to my master. And when master says I've got to do bad stuff, I do bad stuff, okay? Like I'm a loyal Pokemon the way I'm supposed to be.
Mm.
Don't you go judging me for having being loyal to my master." And I thought that was really interesting. I think that's a very eye-opening scene when it comes to understanding the internal like workings mentally of Pokemon because I think the show has a very sort of mixed approach to like are Pokemon as fully sentient as people or are they more like animals? And I sort of get the impression that like wild Pokemon exist more like animals. They're quite happy to just like rummage around in the ground and like eat fruit and whatever.
Mm.
But it's like when they live with people, that's when they start to like develop more sentience and connect with human beings on their level just because of how wild and captured Pokemon are depicted so differently, even when they're the same species. And I think that particular episode and that particular scene with Ekin saying, "I do what my master tells me. I am not thinking about the ethics of the situation."
Mm.
While obviously Squirtle is
Mm.
thinking, but then maybe Squirtle is assuming Ash is automatically good, so
Mm.
everything he does is good. But Ekins also acknowledges, yeah, Jesse tells me to do bad shit, and I do the bad shit, but I do it for the right reasons,
Mm.
which is an ethical conundrum, which should be well above being in a show aimed at children,
Yeah.
but there it is. And I think the fact that that comes from Ekins is a really interesting piece of insight, and I think it lends Ekins um, a new level of status compared to even the other main series Pokemon that you see a lot of,
Mm.
because very rarely do any Pokemon make such profound comments or any comments at all.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, Meowth comments occasionally, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah, Meow doesn't shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah. Uh, um, I feel like that's a very good point. Because I mean, I mentioned it before that for me, I view Jesse's Arbok as more iconic
yeah,
than Jesse's Ekins, and partly that is because of the amount of time that we spend with Arbok versus Ekins, and
yeah,
I think that a lot of the character development that we have with with Jesse and James happen post Arbok and Weezing, as opposed to
Yeah.
Coffin and Ekans. But for me, my main thing that I think of when I think of Ekans is the Red and Blue games, where
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's the first time that I come across Ekans. I can't remember if they've got coughing at that point. Like, I'm assuming that they do, because they went okay. What in the anime they must have gone, okay, which Pokemon do we give Jesse and James? Well, the Rocket Grunts have got Ekans and Coffin.
Yeah.
But I vividly remember not having come across an Ekans before Team Rocket, and I'm assuming that that's like an intentional thing that you go, okay, this here is like a bad guy's Pokemon, and I think that there was like a certain amount of coolness factor that comes with that, and that I think it's something that has been applied to Team Rocket that a lot of the other criminal organisations have never really gotten ever since.
Yeah. I think it definitely helps that Team Rocket was more prevalent in the show. That they linger longer in your mind than and also Team Rocket was in 2 generations. Team Rocket was in Gold and Silver as well as Red, Blue, and Yellow.
Yeah, and we've revisited them loads as well. And but I think part of that is because I think that they do have, they're a criminal organisation. They're just, stealing people's Pokemon. They're doing it for money. They're not doing it for some reason that they're gonna try and shove down your throat later on, or try. It's like these. It's not like Team Galactic or Team Plasma, where it's like, okay, they're making like a point about like animal rights, and it's like these here are very clearly people that you are meant to not agree with, and I can respect that as it might be simple, but I can respect that as an artistic choice.
Yeah, I think as the generations went on, like the baddies got a bit more ambiguous, but I think that is a trope in general. Like, growing up, like your baddie's your baddie. Like Jafar wants to take power, Carl wants to eat you, to use examples I've already mentioned today. But like, and it's not even just because like I've got older and I'm watching more nuanced shows, like even kids media that comes out today. Like look at Frozen. Originally, Elsa was supposed to be the baddie. Obviously, Hans is also a terrible baddie, but like the idea is you understand why they're upset. You understand the injustice that caused them to, you know, become what they did because they didn't see a reason with a way within the system to impact the change they needed. So they resorted to like terrorism effectively. And it's like that is a more common narrative now. You get these like ambiguous, nuanced villains where you understand where they're coming from, but you disagree with their approach. And at the end, like your hero learns like from the villain's perspective and starts to implement whatever systemic changes need to be done. Like it's like with Black Panther, everyone's on fucking Killmonger's side until you realize he's Killmonger when he's just a guy that's like, my people have been treated like shit for fucking hundred centuries, and now I'm looking at something that should belong to my family in a museum run by white people. You're like, yes, that guy is correct. And then it's like they had to have him do something as horrible as like shoot his own girlfriend in the face while she was being held hostage in order to make sure that we weren't on his side. Like he had to be inhumane, but the fact that he had an argument that made sense is what gave the story its depth. And I think obviously that is an example more extreme than you're going to see in Pokemon, but it is a thing that you also see in Pokemon, like N saying, you know, people should be even more kind to Pokemon. We shouldn't be keeping them in Pokeballs, even though like literally the message you get when you win Red and Blue is like you won because you care about your Pokemon and you trust them and you love them. And it's like N's whole bit is we should be caring for them more.
Yeah.
Except takes it to an extreme and then becomes the baddie.
Yeah.
Shoots his girlfriend in the face.
But also on the flip side, it's like, you know, there's nothing wrong with having, you know, like to use again like, like a film like you saying that about like Killmonger. It just made me think that like, you know, sometimes Hans Gruber is also fine. You know, like Hans.
Yeah.
You know, someone who's just
you can't have the same story told over and over again, or you get bored. Like you need a variety of stories, and sometimes you want to sit back and have a clear black and white baddie. And Giovanni was a good clear black and white baddie.
Yeah,
I think.
And I think that sometimes people don't. I understand like the wanting for like shades of grey. Like I love films and media where there's like grey and like noir and you know, like Goodfellas and The Godfather and you know all these things where it's like there's no real good and there's no real bad, but also you know pantomimes are really popular for a reason as well.
Yeah,
and
that one's the baddie. We're all gonna boo him when he comes on. Yeah.
And you know Pokemon's never, other than in the remakes, I feel like it's never really gone back to that, and it's like you know maybe they could like, is there any reason why they couldn't go, okay, you know, I'm not saying to do this, but is there any reason why they couldn't do a new one? And it's like, I'm the guy who took over after Giovanni, and we're just out to make loads of money, and we're gonna cut off Slowpoke's tails, and we're gonna sell them for people to eat. Is there any reason why they can't do that?
Do you know why I think they won't? It's because I think they're getting like more and more like child friendly. Because like the latest bad guy was just a bunch of bullied kids.
Oh yeah, like I mean, people who watched the stream on this channel, I was like, how am I meant to? How am I? Oh, sorry, my cat just kicked the on air sign off. How am I meant to not be like, oh, this feels lame, like real lame.
Yeah, and like so, and again, it's like. At the end, you're on their side because they were just retaliating to something that was worse to them. And I feel like it didn't really land because everyone in the game is really nice. You don't see any evidence of like any other bullying. I think if they just had some NPCs go, oh, that kid's got ugly hair, you know, like you'd be like, instead of giving you helpful hints and tips about Pokemon all the time, it would feel a bit more like there was bullying going on in the school. It wasn't the only thing in that game that didn't land, but like the whole story isn't even just, oh, and you empathize with the baddie, but you disagree with their methods. And then you're literally on their side and you join them, basically, which I think would be more fun if you had the option to join Team Rocket.
Yeah.
But like, I think because they've gone so far into, like, it's not like a world-ending catastrophe like Ruby and Sapphire anymore. Like, it's like so heavily leaning into this game is for kids. Shut up, you stupid 30 somethings. It's not for you. Be quiet. Attacking us personally by making their game so much for kids. I really hope there's going to be a spin-off that is the grown-up one, the Team Rocket version, where like it's drawing heavily on like the darkness in the manga and you have the option to join Team Rocket and be a baddie and they're actually a real legitimate threat that you can see, because I feel like I don't want to say the games are I really don't want to cross like, oh, back in my day Pokemon was good, because I really do like some of the choices they're making in the newer games. I think Legends Arceus was fucking brilliant. However, like it just feels really patronizing to the children playing it now, that like in Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow you were fighting a mob boss, and in this one you're like dealing with private school bullies.
Yeah.
Ugh, like that's
and it's like like I agree with you in terms of you know, like Pokemon are probably not going to go. Okay, they've spent so long not catering to the over 30s market that it's like they probably won't now. I mean, they've got the 30th anniversary coming up in like just over 2 years' time now, so maybe they'll do some stuff for that. But it's like, if you're going to do it for kids, fair enough, or for all ages, right? Fair enough. But it's like, why not lean into making the villains a little bit more one-dimensional every now and then?
Yeah.
It's like I, as a 6-year-old, wasn't going, oh, I tell you this, it's. I really wonder what the ethics are. It's like.
Yeah. It's like, don't steal. That's the lesson. You just don't steal shit from people.
Mm.
But like, and also, I actually really like it because you can go into like Silphco and steal their Silph scope. So it's like, don't steal from individuals, steal from massive corporations that are ruining the country. I love that message. I've said this multiple times. Every stream I'm ever on, I'm like, shop local, shoplift corporate. Like, I make no bones.
What the person wearing the anarchy hat is pro anarchy.
This is Austerity Dogs, mate.
Oh,
this is Jono's band. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was. Maybe because I can only see it as like a little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Austerity Dogs.
Oh,
so
very cool.
While we're talking about anarchy, I'm gonna get banned up. That I feel like we should do like a listen along sometime because they're well fucking fun. And I remembered it when I was talking about N, whose motivation was we shouldn't be keeping Pokemon in Pokeballs. We should be like letting them run free. Essentially, the PTA of the Pokemon world.
Yeah.
There is a punk band which basically funnels a number of like social anarchist punk messages through songs about Pokemon. And their lyrics are some of the finest wordplay I've ever heard. They are called Pokemon Liberation Army, and they are fucking incredible. I'm just going to pop a link to them in the chat because I'm obsessed with them. I saw them at Manchester Punk Festival in 2019, and they were really fucking good. I don't think they've released anything in a while. I think they like did what they were gonna do and then kind of left it there. They're not like continuing to do shitloads more Pokemon themed music, but like they've made some pretty fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we should do something that we should see what their favorite Pokemon is and see if they want to come on guest on that episode.
Let's do it. I mean, I on the note of music, I think that Pokemon has got some bangers in terms of the game soundtracks and some of the like anime soundtracks. So like, I think Lavender Town's a tune, Lance's theme, Team Rocket's theme. Do you know what I loved in Sword and Shield? I thought Team Yell had a banger of a theme, and I also thought that whenever you went for and had like a Pokemon gym leader battle, and it was like ba ba da ba da ba, and it was like, oh my god, this is like. Sometimes I'd be like, I'm just going to listen to this before I get into the battle. But yeah, I think Pokemon has got a real history of some absolute bangers.
Yeah, absolutely cracking soundtracks. Should we get back to Ekans at any point?
Just before we go into that, the To Be a Master CD, multiple tunes, and the Pokemon third movie cover of the Pokemon Johto Journeys is a great.
To be fair, that is still one of my favorite theme tunes in all of television.
Yeah,
Pokemon Johto. It's so fucking good. It's just so catchy.
Yeah, it's a whole new world.
We live in. Yeah.
And then when they did like the high production version for the film tune. Oh, and Pokemon Journeys as well. That is.
Yep. There are just a lot of really good. Yeah, whoever's in charge of the music at Pokemon is doing a good fucking job.
But yes, so we go back to Ekans and maybe have a look at the Dex entries.
Yes, I think that sounds like a very smart next step.
Okie doke. So there they are there. I had actually forgotten about their how much yellow is on them when I did my image. I tell you, one of the problems I had as well looking at this piece of artwork was I was aware it does look a little bit like the poo emoji.
I mean, how else do you expect a snake to sit?
True. But yes, I feel like I had a lot going against me when I needed to draw Ekans for this. So we're going to go to its Dex entries, which is down there. This entry was originally untranslated in English, so it's really used in... right, it's got red and green here.
So it had a different entry in Japan that they just haven't bothered to include here despite including it.
Yeah.
Which is a first. Like, we haven't seen a Japanese entry yet, but I guess if it was used in Fire Red...
Yeah, it'll come up.
Makes sense.
Well, should we loop back to that one once we hit Gen 3?
Yeah. When we get to it, we'll get to it.
Okie doke. Right, so I'm immediately enjoying the first entry. Moves silently and stealthily, eats the eggs of birds such as pigeon, sparrow, hull. Links it to the real world, and I also like the fact that it's connected it to another Pokemon that it's eating the eggs of.
I do like the ones where it shows their relationship in the wild.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like we've got a little bit of lore, and I'm also guessing as well the fact it's got that in there, and that is something that is potentially a little bit upsetting for like young people to read. They must have highlighted Ekans early on as like one of the villain Pokemon.
Yeah, I can believe that Ekans was designed as a villain Pokemon because they're like, right, what things are kids scared of? And also, like, what is bad? And, like, kids are scared of snakes and pollution is bad, and then you get Ekans and coughing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is that theory about Kanto being, like, heavily industrialized, and that's why there is stuff like coughing and Grimer and stuff like that.
Yeah, and, like, they live, like, near the skyscrapers usually as well. Like, they're in the bit that goes towards... the bigger cities in the center of the map that are like the landlocked areas, which I think is a valid parallel to reality.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure if I'm right, Grimer turns up for the first time in Celadon City in the patch of water that's in the middle of the city, which implies that it's not as nice as it looks.
Yeah. I remember surfing in that bit for fucking hours looking for a Grimer. No, I remember fishing in it because I knew it was there, but I didn't have surf yet.
Yeah.
But you don't get it fishing, you get it surfing because I guess it's like a stain on the top of the water.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I do like about Gen 1, that, there is those elements to it that it's like, they must have thought about this a lot because it was in production for longer than any of the other games.
Yeah, all of the others which are thrown together in like 3 months before they have to start grinding to get it out.
Yeah. So, shall we go into yellow? Because the older it gets, the longer it grows. At night, it wraps its long body around tree branches to rest.
I do like the thing about it getting older, because there is, like, evidence throughout the Pokemon series that evolving doesn't mean you're older. Just means you've like leveled up, or have chosen to evolve, in the show at least. And like, I like that you can have like really old, long Ekans looking over its Arbok grandchildren. Like, I think that's a cute mental image.
Yeah, well,
and I do like those lot of sort of snippets of like, when there's not a trainer dictating what this Pokemon does, this is what could happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a headcanon. I've mentioned it a couple of times on this podcast that it's like It's like some of the kind of entries are from like the professors and specific to your Pokemon, and you know, in terms of like this, so it'll say here, let's find height. So like it's got height 6'7", 2 meters. Like that for me must, like, my headcanon is right. A professor measured one that was 6'7", and then that's been put in there. But I feel like some people get so hung up on, you know, like I saw a meme about it the other day, and it was like, this Pokemon weighs as much as this Pokemon, and it like gave you the exact thing. And it's like, well, I don't think that they all weigh that exact amount.
They're gonna vary in size. Like that was a whole mechanic in Arceus. It was like, find me the biggest one of these. It was a mechanic in like some of the really early games as well. Like there's a lot of them where it's like, get me the biggest Magikarp you can.
Yeah.
And you go and you show the guy a Magikarp that you've, like, I think that was in fucking Gold and Silver at the Lake of Rage.
Yeah.
There's a guy saying, please show me a big Magikarp.
Yeah.
And then in Gen 3 there's a guy saying, show me a big Barboach. And you go out and you like catch a bunch of the same Pokemon to find the biggest one. And I like that they factored it in a visual way for Arceus, in a way that they really couldn't before. You don't get their stats until you've caught them, so you just have to catch loads and hope.
Yeah.
And no, I think you make an absolutely very fair point. It's like, I reckon these stats should be more of like a range.
Yeah.
Because if it's like, how tall is a human? It's like, well, some of us are massive and some of us aren't. Like,
True. So we got Stadium Professor, as we know on this podcast. He is one of the hashtag mad lads. You know, don't get on with Professor Oak. Slithers silently through grass, searching for its favourite food, specifically its favourite food, which to me adds a slight dynamic in that there must be some element of it seeking out Pidgey and Spearow eggs in order to eat them.
But then maybe, again, this is the thing where he might have just seen one Ekans that has it as a favourite food.
Yeah.
There's one Ekans in Stadium Professor's lab that will like sneak away from like freshly prepared different food to eat the Pidgey and Spearow eggs the professor's trying to look after. And he's got so fucked off at this cheeky Ekans trying to eat its other Pokemon that he put it in its Pokedex. Like, fine, this is your favorite, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
but maybe it's just that one Ekans. Maybe other Ekans is like other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, I mean, I have multiple cats, so you know, future podcasts may feature other cats, but this particular cat here, I mean, cameos and that in it. This particular cat here, their favorite food is Dreamies. I don't know if you're aware of the cat brand of food, Dreamies.
Mm-hmm.
But
are you hoping for a sponsorship here? Is that why you keep saying it?
I may or may not have a small tabby cat with its paw up my back, operating me like a ventriloquist dummy to be like, yes, Dreamies is what should sponsor this podcast. But I do have another cat called Mick, and he would happily eat chicken, like like that you would put on like sandwiches, morning, day, and night. If you were to put that in front of him and Dreamies, he would go for the chicken. So maybe there was a Ekans that had Spearow and Pidgey eggs in front of it, and maybe whatever the Pokemon equivalent of Dreamies are, and it was like, no, Pidgey and Spearow eggs every single time.
Yep. Yeah. I feel like that's definitely a fair guess to make. I think we might be on something here.
Yeah. I mean, we've done this enough now that I feel like I understand Stadium Professor's psyche. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if, because we know that he's been smashing up Metapods. We know that he's been.
We're starting to understand this man.
So maybe he was like, bring me some Pidgey and Spearow eggs, and it's like, well, will that not kill the Pidgey and Spearow? Bring me Pidgey and Spearow eggs, and you don't question me.
And then,
are you
some
put
poor
that?
fucker.
Yeah, are you going to put that in front
The poor lab assistant that Stadium Professor sent to get the Spearow eggs. Oh, and I'm pretty sure Stadium Professor said some stuff about Spearow being like a bitey, stubby little cunt.
Yeah, yeah, I did. And they were like, "Well, how am I gonna?"
Assistant to fetch the Spearow eggs.
Yeah, how many do you want? I want at least 7 or 8. Well, how am I meant to carry them? Take this Metapod shell. Fill them
Maybe
up.
that's why. Maybe that's why I think Spearow is so bitey, because he wrote the Spearow entry after he'd fed Ekans all of Spearow's babies.
My God, we are through the looking.
And Spearow was like, "Come the fuck near me again." And Stadium Professor was like, "All right, this one's a bitey little shit." Like he hadn't just stolen all of its babies and fed them to a snake.
Wow, God, you know what? I think Stadium Professor maybe got sacked after the first generation. They were like, what do they call it now? You know, when you take like a complaint to HR, like a grievance. I bet you there was numerous grievances put in against Stadium Professor
by the Spearow.
And they were like, yeah, and if we could just get a member of the union there, and they're like, okay, we've got a member of the union, we got this, I don't know, we've got this slow bro here as a member of the union. Hello, and do you have anything to say against Stadium Professor? Yeah, is this all being written down? Yeah, it is. Yeah, he called me stubby beaked, and then he fed my children to an Ekans.
Fed my children to a snake. Yeah, that's a pretty severe HR violation.
Yeah, well, now we know why you didn't make it past Stadium 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, should we head into gold?
Let's move on to gold.
Yeah.
So gold says, it can freely detach its jaw to swallow large prey whole. It can become too heavy to move, however. Which, vibes.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I've seen videos on the internet of like a snake eating something that's far too big for it, and I look at it and it's like I know exactly how that snake feels because I have like gone back for seconds at Christmas time.
Yeah, I was like, whenever I drunk get food,
yeah,
I always like. I'm pretty good at being like, I'm done, I'm gonna save the rest of this for my hangover breakfast. But I always eat like one slice of pizza too many. I'm always like, I'm done. One more and then I'm done. And then I'm like, I shouldn't have had that one more. I knew I was done. And that's me as an Ekans.
Yeah. And then you
go,
and then you
pizza
go
in my face.
Yeah, you go one more. No, one more, and then I'm done. And then you're like, oh.
Anyway, yeah, that's Ekans.
Yeah.
Silver, on the other hand, has quite a cute one. It always hides in grass. When first born, it has no poison, so its bite is painful but harmless. I think that's quite cute. I'm just imagining like a little chompy boy.
Yeah.
Can't poison you. Just give you a little chomp.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder how big they are. Like when they're born. And
so they just come straight out at 6 foot.
Like, I mean, I feel like if like Steve Irwin was still about, though, you know, a Steve Irwin type character would make like a fantastic Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like trainer. You know, he's like a conservationist and stuff. And I bet you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I bet you if they got in touch with the estate, they'd allow for something like that. But like when it said that, it reminded me of you know when I don't know if you ever used to watch him back in the day, just like I remember there was like a clip where he opened up the bonnet of his car and like a snake jumped out of it, and he had to like jump out of the way. Yeah, and it made me think of that. And then for someone to be like, no, it's fine. Its bite is painful, but ultimately harmless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, we'll go next. Crystal says it flutters the tip of its tongue to seek out the scent of prey, then swallows the prey whole. I mean, that's just like all snakes, right?
Yeah.
All prey-seeking snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the first time I feel like they have come into this, like, it's very snake heavy. And I know that Ekans is just snake backwards, which is like...
Yes.
That was one of those, before, like, the Did You Know Gaming type YouTube channels, like, that was one of the things that people would say, when I was, like, a kid. They'd be like, oh, did you know that Ekans is snake backwards? And, like, Cobra...
Yeah.
Arbok is Cobra backwards. But it does feel like they could be other than the Pigeon Spearow eggs, they've gone very heavy on it just being a snake.
It just being a snake, yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's carry on and see if there's anything else. Can free detach its jaw, can't move, so the Stadium 2 is the same as Gold.
Yeah, again, I've hard relate with that. Okay, so we're now at Gen 3, and we know that Gen 3 is a bit of a furry. So let's see if that continues on. And I'm also curious to see what Fire Red and Leaf Green have got going for it, given that we now know that this is a direct translation of the Japanese text.
Yeah, so Ruby and Sapphire says Ekans curls itself up in a spiral while it rests. Assuming this position allows it to quickly respond to a threat from any direction with a glare from its upraised head. It's basically the same in Emerald as well.
Yeah. What I'm hoping for is, this is another fact about snakes that I think is fairly well known. That if you cut the head off a snake, certain types of snake, it can still bite because it's so instinctual. So I'm hoping that there's going to be something in there if they're going to go hard snake. That it's going to be it is so instinctual that you don't even think about it, and if you cut one's head off, it will still bite you. But I feel like they won't go with cut the head off one.
No, I don't think they'd go that far. If they did, then that professor would definitely get disbarred. But I quite like this one because in Emerald it says can respond to an enemy from any direction with a threat from its upraised head.
Yeah.
But in Ruby and Sapphire, it says can respond to a threat from any direction with a glare from its upraised head. And I quite like the one that says glare because that's one of Ekans' signature moves. Is glare.
Yeah, so it is.
And I think that ties it into how it performs in game quite cutely.
Yeah. Although glare is one of the moves that I don't generally use.
No, I don't use it either, but it's one of Ekans' key moves.
Yeah.
So I think if you are a glare user, then I think that's a nice little Easter egg in the Pokédex. Then we've got Fire Red and Leaf Green, which are the original Japanese, finally translated.
Yeah.
A very common sight in grassland, etc. It flicks its tongue in and out to sense danger in its surroundings, which I feel like was a little underwhelming considering the weight.
Yeah. And in addition, it says very common. It's you don't come across it until after Mount Moon. So how common is it?
Yeah, it's really not that common. Maybe there's just not enough grassland in Kanto to justify being. Maybe it's very common in different grasslands because I always thought of Ekans as quite a rare Pokemon. I know where you get it, but it's only really in one little patch. It's basically just outside Mount Moon.
Yeah.
And if you have been rinsed by Zubat in Mount Moon and you don't want to go through all the grass looking for Pokemon before you've gone to a Pokemon Center, you can't get back up those ledges for a long fucking time. You've just got that one little patch of grass.
Yeah. Oh, that's one thing that I don't like from the new games as well. It's in Red and Blue, I'm going to sound like a real old man now, right? Red and Blue, you get through Mount Moon, and then Blue is there, and it's right, I'm gonna take you on. And it's he don't care. He does not care.
Yeah. He's oh, you're weak, I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
And I think there was a definite shift in the way that the Pokemon games play. And I think in Gen 4, when the rival character stopped choosing the Pokemon that's strong against you and started choosing the starter that's weak against you. And it just got easier from there. when they're like, oh, before we battle, I'll heal up your Pokemon so you're at top strength. Like, fuck off.
Oh,
Challenge me.
Yeah.
I feel like, and like, even if they just introduced an option to be like, if you play in hard mode, they won't heal up your Pokemon.
Yeah.
And like, there are bits where another character will like come and join you. And on the one hand, I like doing more double battles.
Yeah.
But I would rather do it with my team. I don't want some fucking random coming in and ruining my admittedly half-assed strategy.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, I'll heal up your Pokemon again. And it's like, this isn't challenging.
Yeah.
Like, part of it was how much money am I going to spend on, like, medicines compared to Pokeballs? Part of it was, like, figuring out how far I can actually get with the team that I have, like, what I can actually manage to do. And I feel like not having to factor in that element of strategy to your journey really means the new Pokemon games lose something.
Yeah.
Like every time a character offers to heal my Pokemon, I just go like I don't feel excited about the fight we're about to have.
Yeah.
Compared to the way that I used to. It doesn't feel like that victory doesn't feel like it's worth as much.
Yeah. And as an additional point, Hop made me feel like a dick every single time I took him on.
What exactly about Hop's attitude towards you didn't you like?
Because I kept on battering him, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'll do better next time." And it's like, you're making me the rival here. You are making me the Gary Oak.
Yeah. Have you played the Scarlet and Violet DLC?
I have not played the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Would you recommend it?
No, I just wouldn't. It's not good. Like, all of the ability to roam free that you get in Scarlet and Violet is taken away, and you have to follow the narrative with the company of the two most annoying fucking NPCs I've ever played with in my life. Like, they're these like siblings who like bicker, and one's like shy to the point that I want to slap him, and the other one has like anger issues, and is probably the reason he's so fucking nervous all the time and like screams at people. And I'm like, I don't like either of you. Go away. Like, leave me alone to like run around and do this adventure without you, because you're a pair of little cunts. And I didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. Just because those two characters were really fucking annoying. Just as I was, it was like they held your hand through every fucking plot point. You just like ran for 5 minutes on your own, and then they're right there again being annoying. And like, this kid is like pestering you and is like apologizing all the time for like, oh, I'm not in your way, am I? And I'm like, yes, you're in my fucking way, actually. Go away. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was good. I think the writing was poor. I think the choices, all of the choices were wrong. I didn't like it. And yet I'm gonna spend another 30 fucking pounds on the next bit. Of course I am, because this fucking company has their hooks in me.
What?
But
what's you?
If you
they have their
do,
hooks in you, and you do a podcast about the medium.
If you do play and stream the DLC, I really look forward to hearing what you think about these annoying fucking characters. Because if you didn't like Hop, you're gonna fucking hate Kieran.
Oh well, I mean, I will endeavour to have it looked at least by the Raichu episode, because I feel like we're gonna be. I mean, we've already been here for ages on Ekans. We can't afford for these kind of sidetracks on Pikachu.
Yeah, we've got to focus on Pikachu. We're going to be here for fucking ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ekans. Leaf Green is the same as the earlier one, so it's the same as Red and Blue, so they only translated something for Fire Red.
Yeah.
Diamond and Pearl, it sneaks through grass without making a sound and strikes unsuspecting prey from behind. Again, just a snake.
Yeah.
Then we've got Heart Gold. It can free detectors to swallow a large prey whole and become too heavy to move. We've got that. Then Soul Silver, back to when it's first born, it has no poison. Black, white, and both of those two return soon. It sneaks through grass without making a sound and strikes unsuspecting prey from behind. So we're not getting anything new.
Nope.
X is back to getting long and old. Y, moving silently and stealthily and eating eggs. Ruby and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire go back to the glare that I liked.
Yeah.
The glare from its upraised head.
Right, and next we've got Gen 7, who we know is a young plucky professor.
Swinger.
Yeah, who I think that this is someone who's trying to earn their keep as a professor.
Yeah, these ones actually do give us the first new pieces of information we've had in a hot minute.
Yeah.
Ultra Sun has, by dislocating its jaw, it can swallow prey larger than itself. After a meal, it curls up and rests. Again, mood. That's a vibe.
Yeah,
like if this was how they described Ekans all the time, I would very much identify with that Pokemon. Ultra Moon, the eggs of bird Pokemon are its favorite food. It swallows eggs whole, so sometimes an egg gets stuck and Ekans faints.
Oh, that is very endearing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's adorable, and I would love to see a professor be like, oh shit, my Ekans is fainted, have to pick it up and squeeze the egg back out.
Yeah.
Pick up a 6-foot snake and squeeze a Spearow egg out of its gullet.
Yeah. Or having to explain that to Nurse Joy. Well, what happened? Did you have a really intense battle? Nah, it was it just came across a tree.
Choked on its dinner.
Yeah.
It tried to eat a Spearow egg. Spearow didn't even notice and peck its eyeballs out like you'd expect. It just choked on it and passed out.
Yeah.
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee get back to getting old and long. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl go back to sneaking through grass and striking unsuspecting prey from behind. Scarlet detaches its jaw and becomes too heavy to move. And then Violet back to a common sight in grasslands. Which I think is a more appropriate definition for Violet than it is for wherever it was we heard it before, like Red and Blue. Where was it?
Apologies.
Yeah, I think it being in Violet, where there are many more grasslands, is more relevant to where it was before, where in an earlier generation there wasn't a lot of grassland for it to appear in. So I think revisiting that Pokedex entry made sense there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I want to say, right, I don't know about yourself, but I've not massively revisited the previous episodes since we put them out. But I want to say this is the first Gen 1 Pokemon that has got a Gen 9 entry in quite some time.
That could be because we started doing this show before they released all of the old starters into Gen 9.
Oh,
when
really?
the DLC came out. Yeah, they did that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. All of you. So basically, in the DLC, the professor gives you a random egg, and it's a starter. You don't know which starter it could be. I think it's at random.
Yeah.
Any starter from previous games, and so all of the starters are now available in Generation 9. Which means if we were to go back and do the first 9 Pokemon,
yeah,
we would get Pokedex entries for Gen 9 from Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur lines, but we did those episodes before that bit of the game was out.
Yeah.
So
I never knew that. I just thought they'd that they've gone, right, we're just not going to do much for Gen 1 in Gen 9?
There's a bit for Gen 1. There's not loads. There's more now. I want to say they introduced some Gen 1 stuff in the DLC. But they didn't introduce a lot of new stuff, to be honest. So you get like a new Pokédex, and if you've completed or nearly completed the Pokédex for the original bit of the game, you'll be halfway done already.
Yeah.
They didn't put much new stuff in.
Oh, well. One might say that's indicative of how they treat the cities. So, should we have a look at Smogon and see where we're at?
Let's have a look at Smogon. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not expecting its stats to be enormous.
Oh well, yeah, you're not wrong. We've got here, it's in the little cup.
Yep.
Its highest stat is attack, which I think makes sense. It being a snake. It's also got relatively low speed. Like speed.
Maybe
attack.
That's why it has to sneak up on everything from behind.
Yeah, it's got a speed of 55, but a special attack. Sorry, I misread that. So it's got an okay speed, but a low special attack. So probably if you're going to use an Ekans, it is probably not going to do you very much good. Not going to do you very much good.
Yeah.
So this here we've got as well, it says for Ekans here is Ekans carves itself as a niche in the little cup as the only viable coil sweeper, and it is quite an offensive presence after coil boosts. Its expansive move pool includes many coverage moves such as Earthquake and Sucker Punch to hit specific threats, as well as utility options like Glare, which we already mentioned as its like signature move. And its typing grants it resistance from common fighting moves as well as fairy and poison type moves, allowing it to check Pokemon such as Timber, Mindfu. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Spritzy and Fungus. So it looks like they actually are saying it's half decent, thanks to its typing. But
given the kind of Pokemon you see in the little cup, you know, this one has something you can actually like build a strategy out of.
Yeah.
Because I think most of the Pokemon in the little cup, they're just not gonna. You're not gonna choose to do that over doing something with one of their evolved forms. There are not that many little cup Pokemon that people really bother to keep around, you know?
Yeah, totally. So should we give it our Trubbish rating?
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
Go on. You go first.
Well, I have been somewhat disappointed by. I felt like because of the fact it's connected to Team Rocket, I was expecting for there to be a lot more lore connected.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm disappointed at the lack. I feel like they just went down the it's a snake route versus this is the main Pokemon used by nefarious people, and I'm gonna struggle to give it more than a 4.
Okay, I think I agree. I think the Pokédex entries are underwhelming.
Yeah.
I think there is, while I understand that they did like simplicity in the early generations compared to the later games where things have been done and they have to get a bit more finicky with it. So I don't want to feel like, oh, it's boring compared to like newer snakes. But at the same time, I think that it doesn't have loads going for it. But I think I would bump it up to a 5, but only because of that really that moment in the show where it's Ekans that gives you an insight into like a Pokemon's mental approach to a Pokemon trainer relationship, which I think is a very unique moment in the whole show, a very memorable moment. And I think it just like gives Ekans that extra little point.